the Johnson Wax Program with Fibber McGee and Molly. The makers of Johnson's Wax and Johnson's Self-Polishing Glow Coat present Marion and Jim Jordan as Fibber McGee and Molly with Jimmy Shields, Bill Thompson, and Billy Mills Orchestra. The show opens with Hallelujah.
Well, let's see. We have on the bags, we have who's on first, what's on second, I don't know is on third.
That's what I want to find out.
I say who's on first, what's on second, I don't know is on third.
Are you the manager?
Yes.
You're going to be the coach, too?
Yes.
And you know the fellow's name?
Well, I should.
Well, then who's on first?
Yes.
I mean the fellow's name.
Who?
The guy on first.
Who?
The first baseman.
Who?
The guy playing first.
Who is on first?
I'm asking you who's on first.
That's the man's name.
That's whose name?
Yes.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
That's it.
That's who?
Yes.
Look, you got a first baseman?
Certainly.
Who's playing first?
That's right.
When you pay off the first baseman every month, who gets the money?
Every dollar of it.
All I'm trying to find out is the fellow's name on first base.
Who?
The guy that gets the money.
That's it.
Who gets the money on
He
first?
does, every dollar. Sometimes his wife comes down and collects it.
Whose wife?
Yes. What's wrong with that?
Look, all I want to know is when you sign up the first baseman, how does he sign his name to the
Who?
contract? The guy.
Who?
How does he sign his
That's
name?
how he signs it.
Who?
Yes.
This is rock and roll radio. Come on, let's rock and roll with the Ramones.
Oh, it is excellent to have a giant's strength, but it is tyrannous to use it like a giant. This is Mark Giacomo, and you are listening to that Twilighty show about that zone. Tonight, we'll be discussing Mr. Dingle the Strong with Burgess Meredith. Is it Burgess? And Don freaking Rickles, about a dude with superhuman powers. We will also be discussing Static, a shot-for-video episode starring the great Dean Jagger, about a guy who really, really likes his radio. Remember radio, kids? It's what we had before podcasts. Oh, you stupid kids with your iPhones and your selfie sticks. Wake up, sheeple. Stay tuned.
I did want to start off by saying that I do love Burgess Meredith and everything. He's exceptional in everything he does. If you wanted Burgess Meredith, you got Burgess Meredith. He was the Penguin in Batman. He was Henry Bemis in a previous episode of Twilight Zone, the man who breaks his glasses after the nuclear apocalypse. And as the Dingle here, he was also in the Obsolete Man at the end of the season, which we'll also be reviewing. And as the Devil, he played the Devil in an episode called Printer's Devil from the 4th season, another favorite of mine. And he's just a top-notch actor.
I mean, of course, Rocky. I mean, you can't really bring him up. But I always thought he was really wonderful later in life in Grumpy Old Men.
That's right, Grumpy Old Men. He had this really foul mouth, right? He was always cursing and everything.
I mean, he was such a big part of my life. I mean, I think he would just pop up in a lot of maybe Disney things where he was a narrator for things.
Yeah.
I'm kind of guessing at this point. I know he was Puff of Puff the Magic Dragon.
Now, could you ever imagine Burgess Meredith as a young man? Like as a teenager? I mean, this is one problem I have. He always sort of came off as a little old man.
Right.
No matter how young he might have been.
Like George Burns. I can look at George Burns in his 30s and all I see is a 90-year-old man.
Yeah, you can't fathom that this person had a childhood. It seemed like they were born as old men, like Benjamin Button or something.
He's just one of these guys. He also looks like kind of a tough guy, I always thought. How tall was he? He was pretty short, right?
Don Rickles is tall, which is it's misleading because he does look like a very small man compared to Don Rickles. This is a crazy what-if story. You have aliens observing us. 2 aliens from Mars walk into a bar. Sounds like a bad joke, right? And then there's a priest and a rabbi. And you have Dingle, this guy, who I guess is a pleasant mensch. He's a regular guy, likes to come down to the bar, have a drink, and relax while he's trying to sell vacuum cleaners. And then you have Don Rickles, who's arguing baseball with another guy, and they bring in Dingle to give his 2 cents. But Rickles doesn't like his opinion and punches him.
I mean, I couldn't believe Don Rickles was such an unlikable character.
This is how you settle differences in 1961? You just, hey, do you agree with me about this? Hey, what do you think about Trump? Well, I don't like Trump. Okay.
Boom!
And then the only reason I think Rickles gets violent with him is because he's Burgess Meredith. He just kind of looks harmless. He doesn't look like he could kick your ass.
Right.
Now, if Dingle looked like Charles Bronson, that's another story.
Now, this is also before his, before Don Rickles' comedy career. Before this, he was just an announcer.
Well, he was, he actually, strangely enough, he started off as a dramatic actor before he got into comedy.
I mean, just look at the guy and you laugh. It's amazing.
He's an insult. Well, Don Rickles he was like I want to say maybe like Red Fox or somebody like that. He was like an insult comic. He would just insult you. And you couldn't really do anything about it, so you laughed,
Right, there was no sense in fighting back.
I remember seeing Don Rickles on Live Aid, the very first Live Aid, I think, from 1985. You had all these stand-up comedians, and they were all doing their basic spiel, like stand-up stew. And then
sweatshirts.
Yeah, and then you'd bring out the celebrities who would talk about all the horrible, the homeless situation or something like that. And then Rickles comes out, he's wearing a suit and tie, and he starts insulting everybody in the audience. But they love it. They love being insulted by him. So the aliens are observing this, and they can't be seen because they look rather silly. What do they look like?
They're a 2-headed alien, which in a box.
I would say they look like a sentient Amana Sub-Zero with 2 heads, or maybe a Hot Point or a Kenmore. And they decide to play a game to see what the human, in this case Dingle, will do with superhuman strength on the order of 500 times the average strength.
Right.
All I can say is if anybody can tell me that the Philadelphia Phillies deserve winning the pennant that year, they're out of their green grass minds. And furthermore, if you can sit there and tell me this...
You sure we're invisible? Beyond any doubt. I wish they were.
You don't have to do that. But this man doesn't know anything about it. All right.
You don't even have to answer this guy. Now, just because he don't happen to like the Phillies...
Let me tell you. You have a brain of your own, don't you? You have your own viewpoint? What did you think of the Phillies of 1953?
Phillies 1953.
That's right. Phillies of 1953.
Did you ever see such jerky-looking creatures? And one head yet. Typical Earthmen. Not really, though. The one in the middle. The one who just suffered the physical damage. He may be the very one we've been looking for. How do you mean? Silence. I'm receiving his waves. Name is Dingle. Abject coward. Does not even possess what Earth creatures call minimum muscles. Decidedly a subphysical type. I think we have found our subject.
You intend to give him the additional strength?
We haven't found anyone weaker, have we?
Dingle goes home. He goes to bed. The alarm wakes him, and he crushes the alarm clock, of course. And he chalks it up to a fluke because that's completely normal. What's more, everybody is when he starts to display his superpowers, everybody seems completely cool with it, except I don't know, the good-looking mother in the park, I think.
I don't know. I felt as though it kind of really fell a little bit flat there, especially lifting the park bench.
Looking at me in a perfunctory, cursory first surveil, do I appear abnormal in any way?
Not at all. Not unless you plan to use that in the park.
Oh, that. Do you know that up until a few hours ago, I sold those? I went through the motions. I was a very bad salesman, miserable. You know, last week I only made 89 cents in commissions. That was for an attachment. It's an upholstery nozzle. And I sold it to a drunk who thought it was a divining rod for alcohol. Oh, I fully expected to be fired. But that is the least of my trouble. Would you be interested in hearing the most of my worries?
Go ahead.
What?
Well, he lifts the park bench with the mom on it. He lifts a statue for the
She's
reporter.
screaming, and then they show her, and she's not screaming.
Yeah, it's an unusual little jump.
Now, why would you prove that you're so strong by lifting this up?
The park bench is supposed to be, I guess, soldered to the ground or bolted to the ground. Maybe he lifts it out of its bolts, and he's got the woman on top of it, right?
Right.
And he's, like, benching it like it's completely normal. If the park bench were not bolted into the ground, I could probably lift that thing.
With the lady on it.
With the lady, well, let's assume the lady's about 120 pounds. Let's assume the park bench is iron. It'd be difficult. I couldn't lift it anywhere near as high as.
But it wouldn't be impossible, you're saying.
Yeah, definitely. No, yeah. all those wrestlers who bench 200 in one sitting could probably do that.
Like Lou Ferrigno could do that.
Definitely. So there's this television show. Or maybe it was just a news report or something, or maybe the
biggest
reality.
camera of all time.
the first reality TV show.
Holy cow!
And I don't know. There's this. They set up at the bar where Dingle starts doing his parlor tricks, and the Martians come back, and they note that Dingle has done nothing useful for society with his newfound powers, so they take the powers away.
But wait, first they say, let him have it for 30 more seconds.
30 more seconds. To save the world or something. But, okay, this is the problem. This is my problem with the episode. I think it's very charming. It was very entertaining. It had this kind of, like, a naive, innocent, childlike viewpoint. But the Martians' logic is just a little weird. They're assuming that there are tragedies everywhere that can be handled with superhuman strength. Let's take a look at where Dingle lives. It seems to be a lovely place. It probably looks like where you live, right?
I guess.
It doesn't. If Dingle were living in New York City, he might be able to do some good. The Martians kind of taint their own experiment by picking an incredibly boring place.
I mean, they're basically looking at him as, well, he did nothing good for his own humanity. He could do something. He could.
Well, okay. What could he do? He could. I don't know. Get a cat out of a tree. He could save a child, but. Nobody had any problems, though. That particular day, there wasn't like a kid stuck on a roof somewhere. There wasn't anything terrible going on.
You're right. Maybe if they had a scenario where, why would you choose to make money instead of helping this person live? So the other aliens come.
Right. The Venusians, these people are from Venus. And... they look like a couple of dwarves with John Waters mustaches.
Yeah, I was like, where do these guys come from? It's so bizarre. And they have, like, these weird eyeballs. I don't know.
they talk shop for a moment, and the Martians recommend Dingle for an experiment, so the Venusians decide to give him extraordinary mental powers, make him really smart.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really, it's just a harmless diversion, and it's nothing more than that. It's very light. It's just fun. It's just supposed to be a fun episode. Again, Rickles, who by any kind of real-world reasoning would spend every other day in jail for his violence, or at least be assigned anger management.
Right.
They get into another conversation about baseball, and then Burgess starts up again. Well, I think if you did this and you did this, and mathematically, and blah, 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 and all that stuff.
I thought it was him going down the same exact path, where he's going to use this power for money. He's going to take bets. He's going to use it for the wrong reasons.
Or not even that, just to show off. Maybe he just wants to show off, because he seems like a quiet guy. He's like a little church mouse. He doesn't get in the way. He doesn't mess up anything. Okay, so Mr. Dingle the Strong premiered March 3rd, 1961, written by Serling, directed by John Bram, was followed by the next episode, Static, written by the great Charles Beaumont, directed by Buzz Kulik, and starring Gene Jagger. Do you remember Gene Jagger? He was in a couple of things that you might have seen.
No.
He was in, did you ever see Alligator?
I did, but 100 years ago.
He was the bad guy, and he winds up getting crushed in a limo by a giant alligator, which is pretty cool. But he won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his role in 12 O'Clock High from 1949.
Oh.
He was in Dark City, Rawhide, Warpath, The Robe, White Christmas, King Creole, Elvis, The Nun's Story, Cash McCall, Elmer Gantry, and Game of Death. So he's just an incredible actor. And really, I think he's the only part of this episode that is watchable. I mean, a lot. This is shot for video, so it doesn't look great.
Yeah, it's like shot on that, I forget what it's called, the thing where they have to burn the screen.
You're referring to electronic cam?
And it's shot on video, essentially.
Yeah, and what I do know is that it was shot live. So it was shot like a soap opera. They had multiple camera setups. These cameras were enormous, like that one you mentioned. Probably that one you mentioned, actually, from Dingle. And they had to edit it live. So they had to keep it rolling no matter what. So if you blew a take, you had to start over completely from scratch. And then it would be live edited on a board in the I believe it was the CBS television facility. So it was a different set. And after that, they added music, and then they transferred it to 16 millimeters so it could run in syndication. And it's strange that, because of the story, the narrative that we're going to get into now, which is that Dean hates television, and his complaint is nothing new. I've heard so much about how television is a soul sucker, it's a mind sifter, some kind of a false god worshipped by mind-numb zombies.
I think we kind of believe that a little bit because, we've
well,
turned our backs a little bit on television and stepped into the world of podcasting.
Well, this is nostalgia, though. I mean, like, I know for some reason when you're younger, things are just better. So the stuff that you were looking at, like back in the 80s and 90s, and the music that you were listening to around that time always sounds better than the stuff that these stupid kids are listening to these days.
Yes, Green is brought
What's the matter with you, Professor? What's the matter with all you people? Are you hypnotized or something?
If you don't care
Gone out of your
about
blessed minds?
Mr. Lindsay, you can request a different channel.
Yeah, what difference does that make? What channel you got?
The new chlorophyll cigarette can make that statement.
Little brown jug is driving me so crazy.
A pretty song to ruin, isn't that wonderful? Just ruin, completely ruin a beautiful song.
You and me, little brown jug, how I love you.
If you act now, you can get your acreage in Splendor Flats for the fantastically unbelievable price of 25 cents an acre a week. Just look at this land, folks. Look at it. It's flat, it's gray, it's undeveloped. But within 10 years, with the coming water people, it will be a veritable oasis of lovely.
An oasis, yes.
Only Green. The new Green cool grass.
Oh, yes, let's all roll in the grass.
Smell,
The green,
the new
cool,
chlorophyll
beautiful
cigarette
grass.
can make that
25 operators just waiting to take your call, folks.
I remember listening to radio when I was a kid. I didn't have a TV in my room yet when I was very young. I'm 11 or 12. There was a show on WCBS in Philadelphia on weekends, and I was like 9, 10, and I listened to a show called Radio Classics, which would broadcast stuff like Abbott and Costello, or Fibber, McGee and Molly, The Shadow, The Whistler, Great Gildersleeve, and I used to love listening to shows. Did you ever listen to any of that kind of Radio Classics?
All right, so what I used to do is get these tapes from, like old-time radio tapes or whatever from the library.
Cassettes, right?
Yeah, and I was fascinated by this stuff as a kid. And then as the MP3 format became popular, one of the first things I started collecting were these old-time radio classics.
Right.
And now I've had enough. I've listened to so many of them. I love everything about them, though. I love the way they're recorded, the way they sound, the commercials, everything.
Yeah, the commercials all done live there, and the use. All it is like the use of sound effects and good dialogue, good acting, good radio acting.
Right. Which is something that's really lost these days.
Yes, I agree. Would you agree then that radio has this sort of potential to really make you think, because it makes you fill in the blanks when you're listening to it? What do these people look like? Where are they standing? Where are they sitting? What does this look like? What is this particular sound effect coming from? That unlocks your imagination in a way that television and movies probably don't, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I remember listening to some of these shows and getting so pulled into them, especially when I was doing commuting. You may as well be watching a full movie. It's amazing.
Right. He gets this, he goes down in the basement, he brings this enormous radio up, which has got to be like the size of, it looks like, I don't know if you had a television like this. I did. It was a color console, basically. So it was like a 25-inch TV. It was probably like the biggest kind they had at the time when you were a kid. And it was like a piece of furniture, right? It was made of solid wood, right? And you put it on the floor. It's about that big. It's a huge radio, and
I have a radio like this. Well, the one I have is a little nicer, but
what do you have? Like a
is it like stand-up radio?
It's a big box, or is it like a cathedral style type of radio?
The one I have has 2 doors that you open up in the front, and it shows you the controls on the right and speakers on the left.
Do you have any idea when it might have been built?
Yeah, that's like I think 31, maybe 20. Like,
oh wow!
Yeah, late 20s, early 30s.
Does it still work?
Yeah.
Oh, tubes. Wow. Tubes.
I also want to mention about the radio, if I could plug a friend of mine in his movement right now to kind of bring old-time radio back a little bit.
Okay.
It's called Fireside Mystery Theater. And
right. Let me write
2 of my closest friends, Gustavo Rodriguez and Michael Pate, are involved in this. Gustavo is the writer for Fireside Mystery Theater. Their podcast is out of control. It's ranked really, really high. Actually, Gustavo's he's a pretty good background. His music has been portrayed on the Maron show, the Mark Maron show, and he's really gotten around. He's an extremely talented individual, amazing songwriter. And the same thing with Michael Pate, who has a band called Electric Black Horse, which I think I've told you about.
Yeah.
And yeah, Fireside Mystery Theater, look up the podcast. It's really incredible. They do live readings.
I was trying to figure out some way to make some kind of a fictional movie about his band, and
actually it's not a story. It's in Long Island City. That's where they do it, which isn't too far from you. You should check that out.
I will.
Fireside Mystery Theater presents Finding the Funds.
Okay, so you've got my attention thus far. I found your crowdfunding page, and so, well, here I am. Who are you and what do you want?
Well, hello, kind potential funder. Come inside from the cold. I'm Ali Silva, host, lead actor, co-creator, and co-producer of Fireside Mystery Theater.
Firewood Mystery what?
Fireside Mystery Theater. We're a podcast.
And also a live show.
Ah, you two have nice pipes. Well, I could hear your voices on the radio.
Well, you need pipes like ours to be part of the cast of Fireside Mystery Theater.
You see, it's all done with sound. What we do is sort of an updating of spooky shows from the golden age of old-time radio.
With a more of a modern twist, of course, sort of like Prairie Home Companion meets The Twilight Zone.
We feature newly written radio plays, musical performances, as well as fun little sketches to create an evening of deliciously dark entertainment.
And we've been doing quite well. Our monthly live show, which is based in NYC, has been getting some great notices.
And our podcast, which debuted last year, has received thousands of listeners and subscribers.
Untapped Cities voted us as one of the top 10 podcasts based in New York City, alongside The Moth and This American Life.
And iTunes has us among its top performing arts podcasts.
Well, congratulations. I still don't see where I come in. Why do you need me?
We need you to join us, Mr. Funder, in...
Fanning the Flames.
Fanning the Flames?
Fireside Mystery Theater wants you to help us fan the flames so we can make a great show even greater.
Okay, so back to the story. Apparently Dean is living in this, I don't want to say it's an old folks home. He's living with a bunch of old people in a house or something. And all the old people love their TV and he hates it. And for some reason, he has to live under the same roof as this woman that he was involved with at some point. Apparently, they were going to get married.
It's very depressing.
It's strange. Her name is Vinny, which is a strange name for a woman. I think it's short for something like, I don't know, Winifred.
Vanessa, maybe?
Veronica, Vanessa,
maybe.
So he's kind of a dick. So I can understand her position.
He's like, what do you want?
He's just regressing.
Yeah.
Which he probably is. He has a right to regress. He's supposed to be an old man. So his asshole friends take the radio away and sell it to a junk man. And Dean gets the radio back from him. This is all kind of like padding or something. I think we get the point of this episode very early on. And yeah. I don't quite know. It's kind of like Kick the Can. Do you remember the story Kick the Can, the episode?
Yes.
It's like that. They remade it for the movie with Scatman Crothers. He plays this guy. They play a game of Kick the Can, which was apparently what you did when you didn't have internet porn back then, and all the old people become kids again. So it's kind of like that because when he gets the radio back and he's listening to an old Tommy Dorsey song and he patches things up with Vinny or something. I don't know, in some way. I don't think they're going to get married or anything. Maybe they'll have some, old dry sex or something.
Right.
But, I mean, it feels like...
It's New Year's. Let's...
Oh, I know you don't care anything about me now. I'm just a silly woman who watches television, dyes her hair, grows old. You don't even like me anymore. And I don't blame you. You're a bachelor set in your ways. You can't change what you are. And neither can I. We had our chance and missed it, Ed. But I'll tell you one thing that's true. And I know it's true. You did love me as much as a man ever loved a woman. Didn't you?
Yes, Vinny. That's true, I did, yes.
But I can say that I would have the exact opposite reaction that Dean has. If I turn on a radio... now, Regan likes to listen to the radio. She likes to listen to it at night. It helps her sleep, and she listens to a classic rock station. They call it classic rock, whatever that is. And then, like, Nirvana or Pearl Jam comes on, and I feel like an 80-year-old man. I'm like, this was when music was good. Music sucks today. I know we've said that, but it's dreadful to listen to this stuff. And I'm like, listening to all this stuff from the 80s and 90s, and they're calling it classic rock. What the hell is going on here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a very loaded category to call something classic.
You know what classic rock was when we were kids? Like the Beatles or the Stones or something like that.
But,
okay, back. Let's wrap this up.
Let's get a little serious about this.
So, like I said, this episode works as a dry run for the third season episode Kick the Can about old people becoming young in some supernatural way. But Kick the Can works better for me because the video format in this episode is just really problematic. It's very dark, and it gives it an inappropriately gritty feel to everything. I felt like this could have been better served with film if it were shot on film.
Now, let me ask you, how many frames per second is this to get that kind of strange effect that you get?
The video effect, it would probably be about 30 frames per second, I would have to say.
So they have to go from 30 frames to 24, right?
Yeah, to convert it.
But it would still have that look.
Yeah, it would. There's no way around it. You can't change that because they were down converting it in a way to the 16 millimeter, not 35, and that even 35 would still have that effect, that problem, but it would look a lot better.
Right.
But all they had were 16 millimeter masters.
But I think that's what he was trying to get. He was trying to create a modern looking TV show about radio. And I think there was he was trying to be ironic about a certain thing there. Hey, great minds think alike. That's right here in my notes. Okay.
I wrote that here. It's a strange anachronism that we have an episode that heralds the virtue and nostalgia of old-time radio, but then shot in state-of-the-art at-the-time video format.
Which actually looks so much worse. It's so weird.
It's unusual. There were only 6 episodes produced in this format because what they were trying to do was save money. Apparently, the budget was a little too high, so they said you can save money if you shoot on video, but it wound up costing them more money in the long run. Let's wrap this up.
All right, man. Well, thank you very much for having me on the show, man.
And thank you for saving my ass, literally.
I look forward to the next one, man.
The next one, yes, we'll be discussing, I guess, the Obsolete Man, also with Burgess Meredith, and 2. Next time, though, I will be discussing The Prime Mover and Long Distance Call with Nicole Phelps. Thanks for listening, and please remember not to impart physical violence on people if they disagree with you about the outcome of a Dodgers-Phillies game. As we all know, the Dodgers suck. Good night.
It's true.